Great to be here with you guys today. Well, it didn't take long for Alyssa Thomas to be proven as a liar. It didn't take long at all. She says, oh, Kathy Engelbert. Oh, I haven't heard from Kathy Engelbert. Well, actually, Kathy Engelbert reached out to you last week. Remember, Alyssa? You guys communicated through text message last week. Oh, but that doesn't really fit into your victimhood narrative, does it? Then we have activist
Alyssa Thomas looked directly into the camera and shared a story that seemed ready to shake the entire league. She claimed the WNBA commissioner stayed silent while she dealt with online abuse and intense harassment from trolls. But just hours later, that claim began to fall apart after a single text message surfaced. What seemed like a powerful accusation quickly turned into a major setback, with many believing it was a calculated move that did not go as planned. Instead of gaining support, the situation sparked a strong reaction from fans inside the arena. Now, the image of one of the WNBA's most protected veterans is being questioned as details of her communication with the league office continue to emerge.
This Alyssa Thomas situation is the Jussie Smollett situation of the WNBA. Let me guess. After they sent you those messages, Alyssa Thomas, it ended with, "This is Clark country," and they chased you away. Then we have the New York Liberty fans booing Commissioner Kathy Engelbert, which I find interesting. I find the New York Liberty fans booing Kathy Engelbert interesting because, correct me if I'm wrong, Kathy Engelbert wore a New York City...
The controversy began when Alyssa claimed that Commissioner Kathy Engelbert had never reached out to her about the online harassment she was dealing with. She described a league that had left its players to face abuse on their own, creating a story that quickly drew attention and sympathy. But that version of events started to unravel when new information came out. Once the actual timeline became public, it revealed a major difference between her claims and what had really happened, leading many people to question the accuracy of her story.
The NBA Finals series was riddled with calls going against the Minnesota Lynx because it was, wait for it, fixed, allegedly, rigged, to get the New York Liberty to win a championship. And they're booing the commissioner? Interesting. Let's get right into it, shall we? Like the video, hype the video. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below and subscribe to the channel. That would mean so much to me. Let's start with Alyssa Thomas on recent online harassment. We still have yet to hear anything from Kathy Engelbert. You can see what's being...
Alexa Filippo of ESPN revealed a major detail that changed the entire story. She reported that Alyssa and Commissioner Kathy Engelbert had been exchanging text messages just days before Alyssa made her public comments. That meant this was not a situation where the league had completely ignored her or refused to communicate. Instead, there was already direct contact, a fact Alyssa did not mention while sharing her complaints publicly. Once that information became known, many people began questioning her claims. And what started as an emotional appeal quickly turned into a serious public relations problem that the league could no longer easily dismiss.
Because the only people who've been arrested for stalking WNBA players are two individuals that stalked WNBA players that played on the Indiana Fever. Oh, wow. Did Kathy Engelbert speak up about that, Alyssa Thomas? But Caitlin Clark's not black. Oh. When Sophie Cunningham's stalker got her, did Kathy Engelbert speak about, but Sophie Cunningham's not lesbian. All right.
The situation has drawn comparisons to the widely discussed case involving Jussie Smollett because some critics believe the story was presented in a way that created the biggest possible public reaction. The podcast narrator strongly criticized what they described as a victim narrative, arguing that it shifted attention away from Alyssa's own actions on the court. While the comparison is controversial, it reflects the frustration some fans have expressed when they feel serious issues are being used to influence public opinion. According to that viewpoint, Alyssa tried to present herself as someone the league had abandoned. But the later developments led many people to question that version of events and whether the full story had been shared from the beginning.
Caitlin in the throat. Now I mentioned this. Oops, excuse me. Now I mentioned this. Do you know what Alyssa Thomas wants Kathy Engelbert to do realistically? These players want Kathy Engelbert to police social media. Just do us all a favor. Go to your safe space on Threads. Go to your safe space on Blue Sky and stop swimming in the deep end. Stop swimming with the sharks. Go to your echo chamber, Blue Sky. Go to the echo chamber and Threads and just leave us all alone with your victim Olympics, please. Please.
The criticism surrounding Alyssa has grown even stronger because of her recent game against Caitlin Clark. Some fans argue that while she has spoken out about online harassment and negative comments, she was also involved in a physical on-court incident with Clark that drew significant attention. Critics believe the contact should have received more scrutiny and have pointed to it as an example of inconsistent standards. From their perspective, it seems unfair to demand stronger action against online behavior while questions remain about physical play during games. This perceived double standard has frustrated many fans, especially those who feel Clark has repeatedly been the target of tough treatment from veteran players.
I go to the echo chamber and Threads and just leave us all alone with your victim Olympics, please. Please. Well, what do you want, Kat? What do you want, Alyssa Thomas? You want to get rid of free speech? Is that what you want, Alyssa Thomas? You want to get rid of free speech, Alyssa Thomas, huh? Me words hurt? Oh. Now, Kathy Engelbert, of course, felt the pressure from the mob, felt the pressure from the WNBA old guard, and said, oh, fine, I'll put out a statement. Fine. The WNBA vehemently condemns any and all forms of hate. The safety and well-being of
Caitlin Clark has faced intense attention throughout her career, including criticism on social media, negative media coverage, and several physical on-court moments that have sparked debate among fans. Despite that, she has generally avoided making public complaints and has stayed focused on playing basketball. Many supporters point to her quiet approach when discussing the different ways players respond to criticism and pressure. They contrast that with Alyssa's public calls for stronger action against online harassment, arguing that the two have handled difficult situations very differently. To those fans, the difference reflects two opposing approaches, one centered on letting performance speak for itself, and the other on addressing concerns through public statements.
Gets a fist in her neck, while Caitlin Clark has stalkers being arrested, while Sophie Cunningham has stalkers being arrested, while Maisha Hines-Allen's getting called a coon on the court. Kathy Engelbert comes out, scared of the big bad Alyssa Thomas, and has to put out a statement. But now, Alyssa Thomas said, we have yet to hear anything from Kathy Engelbert, which is interesting because Alexa Filippo of ESPN said WNBA Commissioner Kathy Engelbert and Alyssa Thomas, well, they exchanged.
The commissioner eventually responded to the growing pressure by releasing a general statement condemning hate and online harassment, but many critics felt it did not go far enough. Some people wanted the league to take stronger action and provide greater protection for players facing abuse online. As a result, Commissioner Kathy Engelbert found herself under pressure from different sides, trying to balance the concerns of veteran players while also addressing broader issues across the league. At the same time, some fans argued that the league has been more vocal when established players speak out than when rookies face similar challenges. That perception of inconsistent responses has fueled growing criticism of the league's leadership and contributed to increasing frustration among fans.
Ladies in the WNBA, who would have thought she would have been a liar? Not I, says the big bad wolf. Not I. Alyssa Thomas, I mean, I'm sure she heard the monkey noises when she was in Indiana last year. I mean, they probably were in her head. They probably were made up in her mind, but I'm sure she heard them. They just weren't vocalized from the crowd. They were the voices inside her head. Shout out to Randy Orton. And then Annie Costable, activist Annie, she gets sent the dossier. Folks, we could tie it all in here. We could tie in the Jussie Smollett. We could tie in the
The discussion has also shifted toward real safety concerns that some critics believe have not received enough attention. They point to reports that 2 individuals were arrested for allegedly stalking members of the Indiana Fever. arguing that the response from the league did not receive the same level of public attention as debates over online harassment. According to the podcast narrator, this raises questions about whether the league has been consistent in how it addresses different types of threats. The narrator also mentions Sophie Cunningham, noting that she dealt with a stalking situation without a similarly high-profile public response from league leadership. The podcast argues that some players receive more attention and support than others, suggesting that public narratives can influence which issues are emphasized. In that context, the narrator claims Alyssa Thomas has used her platform to push for stronger action. While critics continue to question whether the league applies the same standards and level of concern to every player, the podcast argues that the debate is no longer just about player safety, but about whether every player receives the same level of support from the league. According to the narrator, some athletes appear to receive stronger public backing than others, creating frustration among fans who believe the standards are inconsistent. The podcast also claims that members of the media, including Annie Costabile, strongly supported Alyssa's claims by sharing reports of direct messages allegedly sent to players such as Dewana Bonner containing racial slurs and death threats. The narrator makes it clear that such messages are completely unacceptable, but questions the timing of their release, arguing that they shifted attention away from the controversy over Alyssa's communication with the commissioner. The podcast further expresses skepticism about reports that some abusive messages ended with the phrase, "This is Clark Country," suggesting the wording sounds highly unusual and drawing a comparison to the widely discussed case involving Jussie Smollett. The narrator presents this comparison as a personal opinion rather than an established fact, and argues that the focus on these claims changed the direction of the broader public debate. The podcast argues that linking the online harassment directly to Caitlin Clark's fanbase without clear evidence unfairly shifts blame onto a large group of people. The narrator questions the credibility of those claims, suggesting that some details may have been exaggerated to make the story more dramatic and emotionally powerful. The podcast goes on to argue that if players find certain social media platforms too hostile, they have the option to use other platforms with more moderated communities instead. According to the narrator, expecting the WNBA to monitor or control everything posted across the internet is unrealistic because no sports league has the ability to regulate millions of online users. The narrator also expresses concern that attempts to pressure the league into policing online speech go beyond what is realistically possible and risk creating even greater controversy. The podcast describes the atmosphere during the Commissioner's Cup as chaotic, claiming that many fans of the New York Liberty loudly booed Commissioner Cathy Engelbert despite her role in presenting the championship trophy. According to the narrator, seeing the league's commissioner receive such a negative reaction was unusual and reflected growing frustration among fans. The podcast argues that as the WNBA continues to grow, league leadership is facing the same level of public criticism that commissioners in other major sports often experience. The narrator also points to criticism over Engelbert wearing a dress featuring the New York City skyline during the finals, claiming some fans viewed it as an appearance of favoritism and a potential conflict of interest. Whether or not that interpretation is fair, the podcast argues that moments like these have fueled debate about the league's leadership and damaged public trust among a portion of the fan base. The league clearly wanted that trophy to end up in their preferred hands. But getting booed by the same fans they were supposedly helping was a major embarrassment. It proved that no matter how much people believe the league tried to favor one team or market, fans will still speak out when they feel something is wrong. Many people still have not moved on from the WNBA Finals, where the New York Liberty won a championship that some believe was handed to them. Claims that the series was influenced to benefit the New York market have continued for months. When the commissioner appeared at the championship game wearing a dress featuring the New York City skyline, it only added more fuel to those suspicions. Many fans saw it as disrespectful to the Minnesota Lynx and their players, believing they were denied the championship they had earned because the league wanted a major market to win. The commissioner being booed was not just a WNBA moment. This was not just a league-specific issue, even though some longtime supporters treated it like a disaster. Commissioners in leagues like the NHL and NFL get booed all the time, and it is considered part of the job. The difference is that many people in the WNBA still expect fans to show a level of respect that has not been earned from the wider audience. Cathy Engelbert being booed in Brooklyn showed that a new generation of fans is not interested in following the old expectations. They will openly express their frustration whether the league approves or not. The Commissioner's Cup itself almost felt secondary because so much attention was focused on everything happening away from the game. It even raised the question of whether fans cared more about the trophy presentation than the actual matchup, with the narrator suggesting that the game has become less important, as the league puts more attention on identity politics and other off-court issues. The league is facing a situation where the off-court drama often gets more attention than the basketball itself, and that creates a serious challenge for its long-term success. Critics argue that the focus has shifted so much to social media controversies that the actual games are no longer the main attraction. Annie Costabile and The Athletic have also been accused of acting more like a public relations team for certain players instead of simply reporting the news. Some believe that saving a collection of negative messages and releasing them at carefully chosen times helps build a narrative that portrays players as victims. According to this view, the goal is to discourage criticism by treating disagreement as harassment. But the more this approach is used, the more fans push back because many feel they can recognize when they are being influenced. Many fans do not like being told that their favorite rookie is responsible for everything wrong with the league. DeWanna Bonner's involvement adds another angle to the discussion, as she is another veteran who believes the growing wave of new fans has unfairly targeted her. While no one should ever be subjected to racial slurs or abusive messages, critics argue that these incidents are sometimes used to shut down broader conversations. They believe the focus on those messages shifts attention away from debates about the physical style of play on the court. In this view, anyone who questions a veteran player after a hard foul is quickly dismissed as a troll or a hater instead of having their opinion considered. Critics also argue that this approach avoids accountability while expecting everyone else to be held responsible for their actions. The larger question raised is whether some players want to limit criticism so that only supportive comments are accepted, with Alyssa Thomas presented as an example of that viewpoint, even though professional sports and the real world naturally include both praise and criticism. Professional athletes cannot expect the rewards of fame and multi-million-dollar deals without also accepting the public criticism that comes with them. Playing at the highest level requires the ability to handle both praise and negative opinions. Critics argue that expecting the commissioner to control what everyone says online is unrealistic and only makes the players appear less resilient. Some have also mocked the move to platforms like Blue Sky and Threads, describing it as an attempt to avoid criticism by staying in spaces where people mostly agree with them. The argument is that while anyone can choose where they engage online, they cannot expect the entire internet to change to match their comfort level. Negative comments will always exist, and trying to avoid them while still seeking public attention creates a contradiction. Meanwhile, the players finding the most success today are often the ones who have learned how to deal with both support and criticism. The players seeing the most success are usually the ones who block out the outside noise and stay focused on their performance instead of spending time reading negative messages online. As the season continues, the gap between longtime supporters and newer fans keeps growing. Many veteran players believe they helped build the league and deserve greater respect, while many new fans are more interested in the excitement and talent brought by rookies like Caitlin Clark. Critics argue that when veteran players create or encourage off-court drama to remain in the spotlight, it pushes away the very fans who are helping bring more attention, viewership, and revenue to the league. They believe the WNBA has a major chance to expand its popularity, but that opportunity is being limited by what they see as a culture that focuses too much on victimhood instead of adapting to the realities of today's sports environment. At the end of the day, critics argue that the WNBA is at a turning point between players who want the focus to stay on competition and those they believe spend too much time presenting themselves as victims. From this perspective, Alyssa Thomas attempted to use the commissioner to support that narrative, but many fans in the arena were not convinced. They believe the boos were directed not only at the league's leadership, but also at what they saw as a lack of authenticity throughout the organization. The concern raised is that if the league's biggest stars continue to prioritize off-court controversy over the basketball itself, they could lose an audience that is more interested in honest competition than carefully shaped narratives.